and welcome to ShowPod. I'm Mr. P with Mr. Jeffster. I'm Mr. Dave. We are the Geeky guys, and today I'm really excited about this one. I say that about quite a few recently. We're talking
You're
about...
just very excitable.
I know.
Don't say much.
We've been wanting to do this one day for ages.
Yeah.
Way back when we were doing
Yeah,
tea break.
we mentioned it back in the tea break days, didn't we? Doing a big look at it.
How long ago was that?
Longer than I'd care to admit. We're looking at the A-Team.
Indeed, the freaking A-Team.
The A-Team. And now, it's quite a good one because we always talk about this because when Dave visits Geeky Guys HQ, and we have a social when it's not a Geeky Guys day, we've been watching the A-Team TV series.
Yes, we have, right from the start.
We've rerun it from the beginning a few times as we've then gone away from it, come back and said, oh, we'll start again. Finally, we are now on our rewatch up to series 4, halfway through.
Yeah, about just over halfway through.
And there was 5 series, Jethro. You've not really watched a lot of the A-Team, have you?
No, I saw like 2 episodes when I was 8.
Well,
listen out.
Yeah, there's 97 episodes of the A-Team.
So I'm like just over like 2% of the way through.
We've got some homework for you. Some homework for you. It ran from 83 to 87. The network didn't like it.
No, they didn't, did they?
Okay.
Why?
They just didn't like the show. They thought the slapstick sort of violence that wasn't really violence didn't really work. They didn't really want Murdoch. We'll come to characters in a minute. They didn't really want Murdoch in it. They thought he was too silly and over the top. But when he tested with audiences, they liked him the best, so they kept him in. But it endured until, well, it didn't.
Yeah.
Well, shows what they know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were wrong. They were doing everything to stop it. They were changing time slots and all the rest of it. Anyway.
Yeah, tried to make it fail, didn't they?
Yeah.
But I think like you said there about the slapstick violence and the humorous stuff, I think that was one of the key things that kind of brought the younger viewers in as well. So it kind of had that gold where it appealed to adults and younger adults and children.
Kids could watch it because they knew that even when a car blew up, then you saw someone creep out of it alive, like a bit dazed.
Yeah.
And you watch the show as an adult and think that would never, he'd be dead by now. That would never happen.
Yeah.
But obviously, because it was a primetime network TV show, they didn't want to do that. So what is the A-Team? So the A-Team is a show about the A-Team, and they were so named in the war. So during the Vietnam War, they were a combat group that did missions and things whilst they were in Nam. And they were falsely accused of robbing the Bank of Hanoi. Okay. And it was one of the last things that the Americans were pulling out. They were ordered by a guy called General Morrison to go to this Bank of Hanoi to do something. It ended up going a bit south, and the bank got robbed, but they were blamed.
Yeah, for a crime they didn't commit.
That's true. Now, they were sentenced to prison, where they quickly escaped, because obviously it's the A-Team. And then they went sort of on the run trying to clear their name. But whilst being on the run, they pick up jobs to help people for funding and money to keep them going. Hence the opening narration to the episode, which paraphrased basically as they were framed, they got caught.
Escaped into the LA underground and survived as soldiers of fortune.
Yeah, underground. And yeah, the soldiers for hire, basically. Mm-hmm. There is, I suppose, an A-Team formula for each episode.
Yeah. Which
is that you see the innocent person that's in trouble at the beginning. They get in trouble, and it's normally they've got a business, someone else wants to buy it, they don't want to sell it. This was the 80s. And they're like, oh, and they're being bullied verbally and physically. Yeah.
There's a bit of corruption usually going on, isn't there?
And it always ends up with, oh, we don't know what to do now. What are we going to do? Cue the A-Team, and then they go to hire the A-Team, track them down, and they're put through. In the early days, you see a lot of this gauntlet of tasks they have to go through to try and find the A-Team, because the military are also looking for the A-Team.
Yeah.
So in later series, they cut it out, and they just say, "Oh, I've put him through the thing, and they're all right. We've checked them out." And then they take the A-Team take the job, go and find the people. They normally take over the business temporarily and say, we're the new owners. So then the bad guys come after the A-Team instead, and then the A-Team sort them out, which basically involves coming up with a plan which involves building some kind of big machine or tank or something out of whatever they happen to have in their garage or wherever they are.
Yeah.
And then subduing the bad guys into submission and then getting them arrested properly, the bad guys, so that they all get taken away. Good family fun, I suppose. When was your first knowledge of the A-Team, Dave? When did you
Well, it would have been in the 80s. I don't think it would have been when it started, because I think I was only 3 at the time, something like that. So it probably would have been around, I would say around 85, 86. I think probably was when I first started seeing it on TV.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's when that started. I think I showed you a picture once of me as a little kid with a Mr. T action figure. So yeah, it started off quite early for me, and like you say, initially it was like reruns, and as I got older, obviously I watched it more religiously and got through them all. But yeah, I think it goes back again to the appealing to all ages.
Yeah, I don't remember when I first started watching it. I honestly can't remember. My only memory of it, proper memory of it, is more in recent years as an adult watching it.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I did watch it, and we did have the toys, the A-Team van and the BA figure, and even a boat, even though they didn't technically have one, but marketing play.
Yeah,
merchandising. So, and used to have the boat, and when I was a kid and playing the bath, I'd have the boat. It's
yeah, and they're all. I mean, obviously, like the Mr. T was a good action figure to have that kind of work, but then like the other ones didn't, seem quite feasible for an action figure. Obviously, we can talk about the different kind of characters that you had in the A-Team. Obviously, Mr. T, the Muscle, and you had Templeton Peck, the kind of con man, scam artist, ladies man, Howling Mad Murdoch, and then obviously Hannibal Smith, who always had the plan up his sleeve.
So yeah, let's dive into those a little bit more then. So this team, as I said, they were a team in the war. They were a unit themselves. Murdoch was their pilot.
Yeah, that's right.
So Murdoch in this series is insane.
Yeah.
Okay. Hence the nickname Howling Mad Murdoch. And there's evidence to suggest that he's not actually insane at all. He just pretends to be insane. And quite regularly, he's sprung out of the VA psychiatric hospital by face, scamming him out, so he can't help them on missions. They kind of, again, towards the end of the series, they glossed that over that, and it's just like, oh, I'll go and fetch Murdoch, and that was it, or Murdoch just happens to be with them.
Yeah.
Apart from series 5, which is completely different, which we'll come to later. But so Hannibal Smith is actually John Hannibal Smith, Colonel. Hannibal being a nickname. He was nicknamed Hannibal because of his ingenious plans in warfare. So, as you said, great planner. And nicknamed after Hannibal, who took the elephants over the Alps.
Yeah.
Dissolving rocks and things in water to make them lighter to carry, and that because it was ingenious. But anyway, so named Hannibal affectionately because of his tactics and the fact he's always got a cunning plan to help them out. He's always the planner of the group and in charge.
Yeah.
Sergeant Bosco B.A. Baracus, or B.A. for Bad Attitude, played of course by Mr. T, was as you said the muscle, but also the mechanic, so he can make anything work. So if they're somewhere and they need something, there's only an old bus in the background that's never worked for 20 years, he'll get it working for this, and they'll turn that into some tank, like I said earlier.
And also the Mr. Right and Wrong as well. He doesn't like injustice, does he? Or like bad things against kids. You don't upset Mr. T or anything like that.
He's also afraid of flying, which is hilarious.
Yeah. We
don't realise in the series how that happened. They kind of touch on it in the 2010 film, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But they always have to knock him out so they can take him on missions, which is quite funny because then he gets annoyed and says he's going to hit them all.
Yeah, it usually involves putting some sedatives in his glass of milk or something like that, doesn't it?
Lieutenant Templeton Faceman Peck, named Faceman because he was the handsome one who was a bit of a con man, always scammed everything they needed for all their missions. So they need a jet to get to Paraguay, he'll scam them a jet and find a jet to get there. When they get there, he'll go into town and scam the locals to get all the equipment they need. And a ladies' man as well, always after the ladies, which is quite funny. And despite the fact you've got all these weird, very strange characters all different when they come together as a team.
Yeah, it just works, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there's a good line in the 2010 film, which is where Hannibal, played in the film by Liam Neeson, is talking to someone from the government, and they have to get out of prison again. and they sort of, can you do it? And he says, look, you give me, I'm going to get this wrong now, but paraphrasing, it's something like, give my team a minute, we're good. Give us an hour, we're unbeatable, because they're that good at coming up with things that are completely crazy ideas that actually work. But anyway, I digress. So the series, you didn't really have anyone die. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
There
Was that
was
a network rule? Was that a network
not
rule that
really,
they had to
no,
have?
because they did break that rule.
Well, not no one died, but was it a network rule that an episode can't have more than a certain amount of deaths?
I have no idea, because in the 18 they pretty much didn't have any. That was the beauty of the show, because it was trying to appeal to younger audiences. I think that was the point. It was more not like a network rule. It was more, this is what we want to put out as a product from the people that made the show.
Yeah.
So is that a studio thing or a producer thing?
I would say that's more of a producer thing. I'm just guessing.
Maybe.
Because the studio didn't like the show. They thought that slapstick violence was no good at all. But obviously the reason of having that in it was to make it appealing to...
But then it was so successful that they had to keep it going, didn't they?
So would it be as successful as it was and evidently still is if it didn't appeal to those kids? Because if it didn't appeal to those kids, that you wouldn't have saw it back then, would you?
I think it would still have been quite successful. And I only say that because I use Airwolf as the example of the trilogy there of 80s shows. So Knight Rider, The A-Team and Airwolf was 3 really good, big, hit, popular shows. Knight Rider didn't really have a lot of dying in it. A little, but not a lot. It was mainly, for kids, and it was all about doing the right thing. The A-Team, of course, had all this slapstick violence, whereas Airwolf was quite dark, actually, and people did die. But then it still was fairly successful. Maybe not as successful, but fairly successful. For me, it's always my favourite out of the 3. But we will come to Airwolf on another show pod at some point. But someone did die. Now, we've not got to that bit yet, Dave, in our rewatch.
No, we haven't.
But we've just been introduced to a character, because I said the military are always after them. Now, in the beginning, there was 2 main people in the beginning that went after them. The most famous being Colonel Decker.
Yeah.
And he was played by Lanceley Gold, who's been in lots of 80s shows. He always turns up. He's been in several Airwolf episodes. I think he's been in a Knight Rider. He's one of those that comes in all the time as like the bad guy. And he was after them a lot during the beginning and middle bit of the show. There was someone else at the beginning, and his name's completely just gone out of my head, which is why I was playing for time for my memory palace to tell me, and it's completely gone. It will come back to me. So there was another colonel first, and he just couldn't do it, and then Decker took over, and then right near the end we've had another one coming called Bull Fulbright, and he's after them now. And there's an episode a little bit later where he hires the A-Team because he has to. Doesn't like it, still thinks they're guilty, but he's got no other choice. So his daughter's in trouble and he hires them. He actually does come round to their way of thinking and realises that actually these guys are innocent and that the military are wrong. And he dies in the episode. He gets shot going onto a helicopter and as they go away, I think it is. And he dies. And he's one of the only very few people, if they're not the only one, main person coming on the show that's ever died on the A-Team. Lynch was the first person.
Yeah.
Colonel Lynch was the first one that went after them. People were screaming at the screens then, it's Lynch, it's Lynch. Anyway, he was the first one from the pilot all the way through the first series or whatever. Then Decker comes in.
Decker, yeah.
Yeah, so there's always someone after them, which is it's always fun when it's a guest star Lanceley Gold, because you know that Decker's in it, and it's always going to be a fun one because Decker always thinks he's caught them or he's got them or surrounded. Then he gets all cocky, "Come out, Smith!"
Yeah.
And Hannibal quite often is like, he's always sounds cocky when he thinks he's got it, doesn't he? And then of course they escape, and Hannibal will wave at him, and Decker will like grimace at him, and it's always funny.
It's always good.
Yeah. So it was a very macho type show, and I realise in today's world, if you made it again, you'd have to change a little bit. They did have women in the show, and they had women that worked with the team. And I'm going to say something controversial.
Oh no!
Get letters.
No. I'm on the fence here, because if you made it again today, And there was rumours, wasn't there, Dave,
Yeah, a
about
while
a
back.
reboot of the A-Team.
Yeah.
Because we'd had MacGyver and we'd had Magnum, we'd had not Miami Vice, no, Hawaii Five-O.
Hawaii Five-O.
And there was choice. There was a rumour they were going to do the A-Team,
Quantum Leap. Bad back as well.
and there were even rumoured casts for the A-Team, which looked really good. In fact, not Liam Neeson, sorry.
It was the guy
Mark
from
Harmon
NCSI, wasn't it?
was pegged to play Hannibal
Hannibal.
Smith, or it's rumoured that it might be him they pick. I thought that would have worked so well.
Yeah.
I don't think you could change the lineup of B.A. Hannibal, Murdoch and Face. I think they have to stay the same. But in the early runs of the early episodes, they had Amy Amanda Allen, or Amy AAA Allen, and she was a reporter who reported on them in the pilot, and then ended up like joining the team and working with them. So she'd use her contacts at the paper to help them out with things. And when she went, they then got another one in called Tanya Baker. She was with them for a little while as well. But then after that, they kind of got rid of the woman and there was just like the blokes again. And it was the 80s, so that was the time. I think now you'd have to have that extra person in. I think Amy Allen as a character would work really well as like the fifth member of the A-Team. And I think you'd have to have
Some
her in
tweaks like that would probably work, wouldn't it?
I don't think changing one of the guys to a woman would work.
No.
If you're going to the A-Team, you're going to the A-Team. But you could have someone else with them. You could change up the people going after them. So you could have a female Decker or a female Lynch or whatever. That's fine. No problem with that at all. And now a word about our sponsor. Are you looking to take your business or idea online? Then Namespace has you covered. From personal websites, e-commerce and fully managed IT services, see what Namespace can do for you today at namespace.rocks.
Would it be like the A-Team in modern day or the A-Team back then if they were to make a new one?
When they did the film, so there was a pause, they did nothing. Then, as we said, they brought out the 2010 film, which was Bradley Cooper and, as we said, Liam Neeson as Face and Hannibal, respectively. It was probably two of the three most well-known. Was it Rampage Johnson that played B.A.? I think it was Rampage Johnson that played B.A. I might be wrong. We'll check that in a second. But anyway, the casting for that film was phenomenal. Apart from Bradley Cooper, I didn't like Bradley Cooper's face. I don't think it worked. And it was clearly a platform for him. And the writing was not very good, which is why it didn't then progress into more films or a TV show, which I thought it should. It ended at the point where they were back on the run. They were basically on the run, and it was just primed, ready for a TV series. Streaming now, you jump at that to be on streaming. Now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm pointing over there at that big television. Pointing at the television. Look, that's where streaming media happens. So
Usually
that would work really well now on a streaming service. And I think one of the reasons they didn't do it was they said they didn't really know how to put the violence on TV with and make it fit for kids. Which I'm like, that's a load of rubbish. They did it back then and it worked, so I can not do it now.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't think the networks wanted to do it, so they just didn't.
It was also in the era when everything that was remade had to be a darker take on everything. You had like your Dark Knights and all these other things, and if they tried to do that with the A-Team, it doesn't sound like it would work.
It doesn't work now.
Yeah, because things are sort of brightened up a bit. That with there's still some dark takes on things, but not everything has to be a dark reimagining of everything.
No, definitely not.
So, yeah, might work better in 2024 than it may have done in 2010.
Well, think about that for a minute, because what we're going to do now is myself and Mr. Dave are going to pit our minds against each other in this episode's Geeky quiz. Oh, it's funny, this happens every time, Dave, doesn't it?
Every time, we keep going
Every time. So Mr. Jethro sets the questions and myself and Dave go head-to-head to answer Mr. Jethro's geeky questions. So let's see what happens this time.
Gentlemen, are we ready?
Yes, we are ready.
So,
Okay, question number 1. Which Arnold Schwarzenegger film did he say the one-liner, "Consider that a divorce"?
True Lies?
Incorrect.
I was going to say that, but then he doesn't say it to her. Predator.
Incorrect. It's Total Recall.
Of course it is.
I watched that for quite a while.
No, of course he shoots it, don't
wasn't
he?
in there.
Right, question number 2. In sequence of chronological order, which is the 5th live-action Star Wars film? Yep.
Oh, you said chronological order, not release order.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 5.
No. Yep.
Empire Strikes Back.
No.
Episode 4.
No.
Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3. Was it Solo, then Rogue One? So was it Rogue One?
Yeah.
Worked it out, but just not enough time. I don't
Yeah.
think we can count that as a right answer, can we?
Okay. Right.
That's just,
Question number 3. What speed does the DeLorean have to be in order to travel?
88 miles per hour.
Yeah. Are you going to say that, Dave?
I was going to say that. It was too quick on the buzzer.
Question number 4. The Enterprise D was launched in which year? Yeah,
2363.
correct.
Yeah, I need to be quick on that.
In the film Avatar, what is the name of the rare mineral?
Oh,
Pass.
Jethro, you found a little nick in our armour here. This massive, great, big blockbuster film launched this, I say franchise. It feels like a franchise. They've made 2. But it's been 60,000 years.
Yeah,
So
I've not watched the first one since it came out.
I
so-
haven't. It's been such a long time.
Okay. The answer is unobtainium.
Unobtainium.
Yep. No joke, that is what it's called. Question number 6. What century is Babylon 5 set? Go ahead.
26th.
Incorrect.
23rd.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it'd be a bit earlier.
Question number 7. How many captains did the Enterprise D have? Yep.
I'm going to go. Oh, did he get 4?
No.
Oh!
3.
Yes.
I gave you the answer. I
I know it's 3 or 4.
In Logan's Run, what is the age in which citizens are killed? Yep.
30.
Correct.
Very good.
Well, there's definitely no sanctuary for me now, is there? Let's be honest.
Question number 9. How many protons are in a magnesium atom? Yep.
4.
4. Okay. No.
In that case, 3.
It's 12.
Oh my! You know when I said 3, I was just thinking I should say something stupid like 12.
I'll give
coulda,
Mr.
woulda.
Dave that.
Coulda, woulda.
Okay, question number 10. What is the name of the Klingon homeworld?
Kronos.
Correct.
Well, picture at the post on that one, Mr. Dave.
Oh dear. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Another
That was
win
very
in the
close.
Mr. P column, and we'll come back later in the series to find out how we're doing on that. So, yes, would the 18 work now? We were kind of talking about before. I think it would. I think a few tweaks to it, but yeah, I think it would.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did say just before we did we were doing the quiz there that the 2010 film, they had updated it. So obviously it wasn't the Vietnam War they'd gone to. It was the Iraq War.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So in the Iraq War, they were sent into... Well, it's more elaborate because the film was like all the stuff that happened before the 18 was in the LA Underground taking jobs. So the film set it up ready. It was almost like a prequel. So they showed you the war, then getting together and meeting each other for the first time, going off to war together because there were Rangers in the war. They showed you how BA became afraid of flying, which because of Murdoch, they got in a helicopter to escape, and he ends up doing loop-de-loops, and it just completely and utterly fries BA's brain. And it shows you the job that they did that got them arrested. And it wasn't obviously, it was a bank in Iraq, and there was a money laundering operation, and the plates for the stuff was being stolen. So the A-team were sent, well, they weren't sent in. They were unofficially sent in by Colonel Morrison to go get the plates, to protect the plates so that people couldn't produce US currency. But there's the whole, did he want to send them knowing they'd get caught? Or I don't want to give too much away, but basically in the original series, Colonel Morrison was killed in the explosion that resulted from that mission.
Yeah.
In the film, it's a little bit different. But I don't want to say too much more in case you haven't seen the film. But There's also a CIA angle in the film. And what they say is, when I said that it was Colonel Lynch who follows them in the TV series as the military person trying to get them, then it's Decker. In the film, Lynch is actually the CIA operative that's involved, who are pulling strings way up and behind the scenes. I like that extra element that they added in. You could see that it was being primed for a TV show, I think.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
Because you could have made it so more open and wide. You could have had them doing missions for the government and all sorts later on. Which brings us back to the A-Team. So yes, it finished in 87, but the last series, Series 5, the A-Team actually got caught. The government caught them, rather than just catch them and then lose them again. They
escaped very quickly.
And they are convicted, and they are sent to the firing squad. And the firing squad do shoot. But there's a deal being made with the Secret Service, with a guy called General Hunt Stockwell, played, of course, by the fantastic Robert Vaughn. If you don't know Robert Vaughn, then he was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Or, of course, he played the villain Webster in Superman 3. I always get a Superman reference in. Mr. Webster. Anyway, so in the A-Team, he basically says, come and work for me. We'll fake your death. No one will be looking for you anymore, but you can come and work for the government. So he puts them up in a house in Virginia, and they sort of live there. Rather than just going and helping the normal people with problems, they're going on the government missions instead. And it was all right. I liked it. I liked the change of pace. But ultimately, it wasn't enough to save it in the ratings, and it did eventually then just stop. They stopped after Series 5, which wasn't a full series. They did 13 episodes in Series 5.
Not as many as they
What's it usually?
It was normally a lot more.
20 odd usually, wasn't
it?
Oh, okay.
But it ends with them, Stockwell being removed, and he's disappeared. He's gone, or he's died, or he's killed. And there's no record of their mission at all, because he kept it all off books. So what's happened is, the A-Team are now there, they're free, they've got no masters looking after them, no government looking for them because they're apparently dead. They can do whatever they like. So the series ends with them going, what we're going to do now? And Hannibal says, well, what are we good at? Bringing down corrupt crime figures, taking out, drug lords. And he says, guys, there's a world of scumbags out there. And then BA's like, I'll get the van. And then the series ends. So they could technically then go off and do more if they wanted to. In fact, there was talk of a revival in the early 90s, or early to mid-90s, of coming back and doing either a TV movie or something. But then sadly George Peppard passed away. Yeah. So they couldn't do it. You can't do the A-Team without Hannibal Smith. And you couldn't have them guys and another Hannibal Smith. I don't think it would work, would it? And to be fair, aside from Liam Neeson, who did a fantastic job as Smith in the 2010 film, I can't really see anyone else doing Hannibal Smith.
No, it's a very particular role, isn't it?
It's so, yeah. There probably is. There's probably quite a few actors that do it really well. I don't know. For me, it's always George Peppard. He's always Hannibal Smith to me. But hey.
Yeah, I agree.
So anyway, Mr. Jethro,
yes.
You've not seen it. Me and Dave have. So are there any questions you'd like to ask us about the A-Team?
Do you have any highlights from the series?
Yes.
Like your favourite moments?
Or, so, how long have you got? Oh, look at that expression on his face. He's like, no, you've just asked Mr. P that, have you? Oh, okay. So, the one thing I do like about Hannibal's plans is they were always completely off the shelf. They were weird, and no one would ever, what's the word? They were completely bonkers and bizarre. No one would normally come up with this strategy, hence why he's got a reputation for being a good strategist. So in the film, for example, they end up flying a tank to get away. So again, they've been caught. They're in is it a plane? And they take out the people in the plane, but the plane's going to crash. So they jump into the tank, and they come out of the plane with the tank. It's got a parachute on it. I don't quite know why. I think it's on a platform thing. So they
parachute down on it. I don't know why it's not showing off.
Get the yellow partridge in.
Oh yes.
They're being shot at by idiots in lemon pipe. No. Yeah. So anyway, the parachute comes out the back, but it's just going down. They need to maneuver it. So they maneuver the gun and then fire the gun to move the tank so it lands in water. And there's the people tracking this are like, what are they doing? It's like, they're flying a tank. She says, actually, one of the women, she says, oh, these guys are masters of the bizarre. And they're, basically they think about so far outside the box that you can't keep up with them. In the TV series, there's an on-running joke that they get locked up somewhere, but it's always got lots of equipment, so they can just build things. They've always got an acetylene torch and loads of timber or loads of metal or loads of ammo and guns, strangely enough, and then they can just build these big things and come out. And there's one of my funniest examples of this is where they get stuck into a building and they get locked in because they've been caught again, and they get caught in this building. They're all there going, well, I don't know what to do. And Hannibal stood in front of them, looking at them, smiling, grinning like an idiot. They're like, Hannibal, why are you smiling? And he's got his cigar. He always smokes his cigar, and he puts his cigar in his mouth. And they all turn around, and there's loads of equipment against the wall.
How about it, boys?
And that was like an in-joke, I think. Look, we always have equipment with us, but they just made it into a funny bit in the show.
Yeah, that was good.
But some of the funny lines from Smith as well. So he'll do something, and they're like, really? Because he's like, we'll just assault them and see what happens. We'll just go full frontal assault on them and see what they can do. And they're like, why? And he's like, you never know how clever or how stupid the enemy is until you test them.
It's very true. It's very true.
Hannibal is a master of disguise. So in his actual day job, when he's trying to just earn money and carve a living, he's actually an actor in Hollywood, and he does monster movies. So he's the one in the costume doing the monsters. So a lot of that sometimes bleeds into the missions. So he'll dress up as someone else during the mission to get information or to do something or to get something. And that's always quite funny because he's always quite good at that. George Peppard was fairly good at doing that.
Dressing up as a bartender or a homeless person, or
there's those moments as well where the bad guys will come in and one of them there'll be a fist fight start, and then someone will try and hit BA and it'll be like, and he's just stood there and they're like, oh crap. But no, it's just lots of little moments, and it's normally Hannibal, to be fair, that has these little moments of fun when he comes out with a line that's hilarious. There's one with shopkeepers in New York, and they're on a street, and they've basically taken on the bad guys, and it's near the end, so they're setting up the street because they know the bad guys are coming because they've already primed them, they're on the way, and they're setting up the street ready so they can take out the bad guys. And one of the shopkeepers says, why do you even do this, for people? I mean, and Hannibal says, well, some people play golf on a Sunday afternoons, but this is much more fun, isn't it? And those funny lines are just hilarious. And the scams when Murdoch and Face go off and do scams. The point is, the whole series was littered with these really funny moments in really what is, in reality, quite dangerous situations, really.
Yeah.
You are talking about mob bosses and people who, although they don't die in the series because it was for children, for families, but they were coming to kill them. That's the point.
They got heavy weapons. They got heavy people. Yeah, it was very dangerous stuff going on.
Yeah, but it's those moments just when you watch it and something happens, and it's just you just have to laugh at it and have a giggle. And I suppose that's why they're still selling the DVD sets now. You're still watching it. People like me and Dave are still sat rewatching it and loving it. And now we're doing a show pod where we're talking about it.
Yeah,
because it was really good.
Isn't it?
Let's talk trivia.
Yeah.
So this is our Geeky Guys Did You Know section, where we talk about trivia from the show. So
well, you can. I will contribute very little.
Yeah. I don't have the stat, but there was someone who went through all the episodes and they calculated how many cars or vehicles the A-Team actually trashed during the show, and it was hundreds.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because in every series, there was at least, every episode had 2 or 3 bad guys' cars destroyed. And when you count them up over the entire 5 series, that's a lot of vehicles they've destroyed.
Either crushed together in the road or sunk into water.
Or blew up or
blown
whatever.
up.
Yeah. So, Dave, do you have a piece of trivia about
Yeah.
A Team?
I can do a quick couple. It was said on set that apparently George Peppard and Mr. T didn't get on very well. The rest of the team all got on really well with each other, and even now, Dwight Schultz and Dirk Benedict are still very friendly, see each other
We go to
quite
conventions.
regularly.
And things
Just
together,
conventions together, dinners together, and things like that. But yeah, apparently on set, George Peppard, he saw himself as the big actor, the main star of the show. Mr. T was getting all the accolades, was on the TV the most, has to go on adverts and voiceovers, and he was throwing the adulation. And I think George Peppard felt that there was too much going on him and not enough on him. And then it got even worse when at a certain point he realised that Mr. T was being paid more than him as well. So that didn't go down well.
Apparently didn't talk to him on set. He used to use
No.
Dirk Benedict to go between them and talk.
Yeah.
Another thing, just interjecting there, on screen when you actually see them in the show, none of that comes across.
No, not at
So
all.
the one thing you can say about them is they were professional when it came to, when it's action, they were those roles and they did them well.
Yeah, the chemistry between the team and the chemistry between the actors was there all the time, wasn't it? That was the thing. And like you say, no matter how they were off camera with each other, it always came together well, didn't it, on camera? So yeah, that was my first little bit. And the other one is, there's always a common preconception that the A-Team van is completely black, with a red stripe on it. But it has actually got some grey on it as well.
The whole top bit is grey above the red stripe.
Yeah, but a lot of people always think, it's just a black van. But no, it isn't.
No, it's not. It's an 83 GMC van.
Bedford, something like that.
Not Bedford.
Is it not
It's
a Bedford
a
van?
GMC something, but it's not Bedford. Bedford's a British make. At the beginning of every episode, you had a little intro to explain about, and I said earlier, paraphrased a little bit of it. So the first series, they said 10 years ago, but every series after that, it was simply said in 1973. A crack commando unit was sent to prison by military court for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles Underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can hire them, maybe you can hire the A-Team. Don't try saying that when you're drunk.
Is that because season 2 was set a year after season 1?
So the first series was 83. Because they were sentenced in 1973, it was 10 years ago. But after that, obviously the show then was in 1984. Well, they couldn't say 10 years ago because that would have made it 74. So from then on, they just said in 1973, a crack commando unit.
I bet whoever responsible for the voiceover really were kicking themselves over that. It's like, should have said that from the beginning. Could have saved all that.
Well, luckily, my piece of trivia is that the actual person who did the voice for that was in fact the producer, John Ashley, who was the producer for the entire show.
Oh, so he's got no one to blame but himself.
He just pops into the booth and re-records it. And let's face it, he only had to do it twice.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not that big of a boo-boo, is it?
Deal. Now, the other one is Murdoch, I said, is their pilot. And obviously in the TV series, he does end up flying lots of helicopters, and if they need to go anywhere, he flies the plane. But I think his actual skill as a pilot is sometimes underestimated because he's awesome to the point where he used to fly in the Thunderbirds. Now, I don't mean the TV show with the puppets. The Thunderbirds was an American flying squad that was really, really good. Murdoch also, you get this impression that he's good anyway, but his leather jacket has a big picture of a tiger on the back. The Flying Tigers were in fact an American mercenary group of pilots that flew during World War II. So he has actually got that link there. So maybe someone in his family, we don't really know his backstory, maybe someone in his family was a pilot during that time too. And then obviously he's took over. So that's what I like to think. But no, he's like a crack pilot. He was like unbeatable in the sky. You couldn't. So when he does all this flying on the A-Team, it's no wonder the baddies can never catch up. And there's one episode where he builds something in the woods. He literally builds a little paraglider helicopter out of nothing other than what they've got, so he could fly out of this canyon. So they all have these funny moments. And you talked about funny moments earlier. Middle of the forest, they've landed. they need a load of stuff. So they give Face a list, and he wanders off in the wilderness and then comes back with a generator and some tarp and something else. And they're like, where did you get all this from in the middle of the woods? And Face is very much like, oh, look, give me a job to do. I go off, I do the job. And Hannibal's like, was she blonde or brunette? And he goes, oh, she was brunette. He came across a farm building where he wooed the girl and got all the equipment. But again, it's those funny bits of humour that I love. And of course, Hannibal himself loves the work they do. He does. They call it being on the jazz, which basically means it's the euphoria of being in that moment and doing this job and getting excited about it. And it sort of sometimes gets carried away. So they use the phrase on the jazz, and when Hannibal's on the jazz, anything can happen. And he does love it when a plan comes together.
He does, very much.
As a catchphrase, that's a good one. I love it when a plan comes together. Yeah. So overall, really fun series. If you've never watched the A-Team, I really recommend you get the DVDs or stream them from somewhere very legal, and just watch a few episodes, because it's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool and good fun, isn't it? And good stories, righting the wrongs with the world, and like I said, a good team that work well together.
It's that we don't like bullies, so we're going to stand up for you.
Yeah,
because no one else will. And I think also it's that underlying, there's always hope. We will help you with your American dream, essentially.
Yeah.
Sounds very timeless.
It is. I mean, we still watch it now, and it is old. They do use old references of things, and the tech they use is quite old, and you probably would do a lot of those jobs different now. But at the same time, because it's set then, you just go with it. It's not believable, but it doesn't have to be believable. That's the point.
It sounds like it was never pretending to be.
No,
anyway.
It wasn't.
So
it was a fun, good 80s romp.
And back in the day as well, obviously the celebrity guest stars that were on it. A lot of people always wanted to be on the A-Team and were pleading for cameos and things. We did have
Galt that I mentioned. I mean, he'd been in all the big three, and you got a few people that have been in quite a lot. But the 80s guest stars we talked about recently, Dave, actually.
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, we just watched the one with Hulk Hogan in it. Boy George was in an episode. That's just two, but there were quite a few big stars of the time. It was in the A-Team. They got them to come and take part. That shows you that it wasn't a terrible show,
No.
Who was the singer?
James.
Anyway,
I mean,
I forget who it was. Anyway, so it's really good, really good, fun show. We recommend you watch it. Honestly, in the comments, please tell us what your favourite episode is and why. Because we're on the end of our rewatch now, and we are curious to know. And what's your funny line or one-liner from it? Because there's so many.
Oh, there's loads, isn't there?
Well, yes, that was fun. I enjoyed it. I love talking about the A-Team. I could talk about it all day.
Oh, I bet you could.
Unfortunately, it's time for Mr. Jethro to go fetch the biscuits and Mr. Dave to make another cup of tea. So we're going to go off and do that. You're empty? You're empty.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget you can get all the information about what we're doing at geekyguys.co.uk, where we've got links to all our socials. And we'll be back next time. And we'll catch you then.
Right.